Welcome in to the At the Art podcast, episode 119. Today's guest is Huntington Beach High School head coach Benji Medure. And Benji, I had been wanting to do this with you since I heard a podcast with you and our friend 𝓵𝓬𝓬𝓼𝓽, and you guys just crushed that one. And so I wanted to do this with you for a while. I'm glad you're able to make some time to be on it.
Oh, I appreciate being on, but don't make me cry like Keith did, man. That was
Well, I'll do my best not to.
I'll tell you, we promised each other we weren't going to go there. And then all of a sudden, we're two teary-eyed guys in his van crying during that podcast. But no, I'm happy to be on. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, Benji. So Huntington Beach High School, you've been there now 20 years, 21 years,
25
years, 20. Wow. 25
right.
years as the guy there at Huntington Beach. You've seen it all for the Oilers. I mean, the program is at an all-time high from the outside looking in. The last decade plus, I mean, it's been a consistent level of success for you guys. You know, what goes into that? I mean, what's the secret sauce for you guys?
That's hard. That's a hard question, but I would say that it's a team effort with all my coaches. I've had the same coaches for the same coaching staff for the last 18 years. Jeff Hrzycki, Adam Springston, Joel Bernstein. And we've been together and we just kind of know exactly what's coming. You know, we have a pretty good system just because we've been doing it for so long together. And then we have really good parents. We have really good parents who contribute and understand what our vision and the culture and what we're trying to do. You know, our kids are phenomenal kids. I mean, obviously they're really good baseball players and, you know, they have all the hype and the scholarships and rankings and all of that. But like behind the scenes, these kids are phenomenal kids. They're phenomenal people, and they're going to be great adults when they get into the real world and they graduate from college. So I mean, and then on top of that, when you have good kids and then they come back, and they visit and they share their stories and they share their experiences from their college experience, they really contribute to our culture in that way. And they do some coaching for me. Like, I don't have to do all of the coaching. A coaching staff doesn't have to do all of the work, because our alumni will come back and be like, no, that's not how you do it. You know, and they understand the standard of our program, and they understand the standard of what, you know, of how to carry yourself off of the field. And there's been some really tough conversations had with some of my players by alumni where they're like, no, they'll take them across the street and take them to Chipotle and take them out to lunch. And like, you're not going to act this way. And so the culture, you know, when people say culture is a living, breathing thing, it really is that here at Huntington.
With your assistant coaches, you got a couple of them on campus too, right? Like, how important is that to sustaining that culture?
I can't imagine being a walk-on coach or not having anyone on campus overseeing or looking after kids. You know, it's the whole, you know, it takes a village to raise these kids. To have 3 coaches on campus looking after kids, checking their grades, talking to their teachers, making sure they're walking around not being clowns. You know, I can't tell you how many times we've walked into classrooms, like we specifically looking for a kid. You know, we'll just walk into the class and be like, come here. You know, you're not going to, because we got an email from a teacher, like, this kid's not doing his work or he's acting up in class, and we will show up right in the middle of period and like, you're not going to do this, you know, and that's hard to do when you're not an on-campus coach. And our coaches, Adam Springston, the big tall guy, if you ever see him in game, Jeff Hrzycki is our hitting coach. They're really good teachers, and they're well-respected teachers on campus. So when they see us coming in their class, everybody knows why we're there. You know, we're there to find, we're like the hitman that's coming out.
You're the goon squad.
Yeah, exactly. And so it makes the kids, you know, walk the line. And we don't have to do it that often, but, you know, there is the threat of that. I also have my daughter here on campus.
Oh,
you're right. So I've walked into her class a couple times too. So she gets it too. But no, it really is important to have on-campus coaches. It really helps.
All right. Since you went there, I got to ask, like, You hear about it all the time, right? And I believe you have 5 daughters, correct?
Four, not four.
Four daughters. Four daughters.
Right.
Okay, so you're the baseball coach. You got a daughter on campus. Like, how's that going so far?
I already know where you're going. It's been fine. It's been fine for me.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's been fine for her. And my 8th grader is starting to already talk about how her high school life is over. She hadn't even been to high school yet. She's like, it's already over. You're not going to let me talk to any of them. And I have not told my players like stay away from my daughter or anything like that. I won't do that. But my daughter has come to me and said, Dad, no one will talk to me. Like none of the baseball players will talk to me. And I feel for her. And she's starting to hang out with some of the guys. And here's the thing is I get to vet all of those players. And so my wife and I are starting to encourage, like, go ahead, talk to these baseball guys, because I know them better than anyone on campus. And if I know that she shouldn't be hanging around them, I could just step in and like, nah, that's not. It's been fine so far. But that's only one daughter, like talk to me in 10 years after all 4 of them gone through.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Benji, let's jump into last year. By all measures, a very successful season, 24-10. He made a semifinal run in the D1 playoffs, which we both understand the importance of that. You mentioned before we hopped on here, semifinals of all 4 of the tournaments you guys played in. Just an awesome season. I mean, obviously the semifinal loss, we'll jump into that, but what's kind of your final synopsis to the team on that 24-10 season from a year ago?
Each of those losses in the semis were amazing games with really tough teams. We'll start with the Boris. We went 10 innings or 11 innings with Modern Day, and we were tied 2-2. And they tied it up in the 7th. We threw a guy out at the plate in the 9th. Like, it was one of the better high school games of the year last year. We lost in the semis of North Carolina. We had a 1-run lead against Corona. They rallied and they scored 2, and it was heartbreaking and it was awful, but obviously Corona is a really tough team with those guys in the lineup, and it was tough. And I'll take full responsibility for that game of leaving a guy in too long, and so it kind of hurt. The semifinal loss in CIF against Corona, where Hernandez hits the 2-run home run in the 6th, that was crushing. I can't say any other word than just crushing. And then against La Mirada in the regionals, we had a 5-run lead, and they flat out beat us. Like we didn't give it to them at all. They earned every one of those runs. They were on fire that day, and they deserved that, in a huge way. And Jimmy did a really good job with them. And so that's baseball, and that's baseball in Southern California. Like you're going to play. It's baseball in Southern California, even though we go to North Carolina and we have to play the Southern California team. But it is the talent and the quality of the programs that we play are just, you're going to lose. You're going to lose some games, and I'm okay with it. I'm okay with all of that. I'm not. Would we want to go to the finals in all of them? Sure, of course, but like baseball's a tough game, and it's even tougher in high school baseball in Southern California. So I was really proud of what we did last year. I'm really proud of our guys and how they matured, and now we return 7 of those 9 starters that are going to be on the field, where they have all that under their belt, and they can reference those experiences. And I've told our guys, I'm like, look, it may not have made sense to you last year. Like, it hurt, and it's just like, how did that happen? I even go back to 2023. We lost to Villa Park with 2 outs and 2 strikes, and we had a 1-run lead, and they rallied and they beat us, right? Well, Trent Grenlinger was the catcher on the field. CJ was playing second that day, and they contributed, not in such a great way, at the end. Do you know what I mean? Like, and they were under the pressure, and I'm not trying to embarrass them or put them down. I'm just saying, like, they were involved in that. And at the time, it's like, man, why did that happen to us? And maybe the reason why that happened to us then and the stuff that happened to us last year is because we can overcome that this year and win something big. And it typically happens that way, right? Sometimes you got to feel the sting in order to, to taste the sweetness of the victory. So I'm hoping that that's what it is. I'm hoping that that's, it's a lesson that's going to propel us to the next level. So we'll see.
Yeah. You touched on that semifinal loss where Hernandez hit the homer, and I think it was so crushing because CJ hit a moonshot of his own right before that to give you guys all the momentum, and what was an awesome game.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, when you guys finally pulled Jared off the mound there, what did you say to him?
I told him I loved him, and I told him I was proud of him. Like he was devastated, and he was devastated for days.
Freshman, I mean, in a huge situation.
Exactly, and Spring and I both told him that the experience that he had, even though it didn't work out the way he wanted to, was invaluable for him and for us. Exactly what I just touched on, like all these, it happens for a reason, right? And we felt like that reason was he's going to be in the CIF championship game, closing it out, and he's not going to hang that change up. He's going to commit to it a little bit more. He's not going to baby it, or he's going to make the adjustment from the mistake that he made. And Jared was, obviously super talented, but yeah, he was a young freshman, in a huge moment. But we were very positive with him and just tried to make him understand that you're not going to win them all. You're not going to always he's had so much success his whole life that, the failure really gets to him, and he's going to learn as he goes on. It happens, and it happens to the best of us. And you have to just get up and do it again, and keep going. And I think he's going to learn from that.
So you finish off the season, speaking of getting up and doing it again, you head into the school year, fall ball, now winter ball. We're about a month away from the start of the season. What's your approach to fall ball with your guys? Is it a matter of getting guys as much time as you possibly can? You split squatting. What's the Huntington Beach approach to fall ball?
We have always, and I think the approach with our program is we try to make our second team the best team we could possibly make them. I mean, we obviously work with our first teamers, but we want our guys who aren't in the paper all the time, I always say the paper. There are no papers anymore, right? Who aren't on Twitter, who aren't on
players listening, dude. There's a paper.
Right. No one reads it, but it's out. The guys who don't get all the accolades, we work with them hardcore because they're a huge part of our success. They are going to push, and there's no guarantees that our guys, the committed guys, are going to come through every single time. And we want our second team to be ready to go and step in. And I think we have a history of that. We have a history of our guys who are bench players, who all of a sudden develop a role and they excel in that role, and that propels us to a new level. We may get stagnant. We may be in a rut. We may lose a couple in a row, and then we'll inject a bench player into the lineup, and it just all of a sudden it's fresh blood, and everybody feels the energy of it and gets behind that and rallies behind that. So our approach in fall is to develop a full team. Our starters do get the majority of the innings, but we also, we share a lot with the other guys, and we continue that all the way until about now. And we start to not cut the fat, but we just start to like, hey, here's a role for you. Like, you're going to be a defensive replacement. We're going to give you these innings late in the game, and you got to show me that you can play left field or shortstop late in the game and be able to, handle it. Or, hey, we need a sacrifice bunt. Who's our bunters off the bench? Tell me, and in the situation, we're just going to throw them in, and we're going to sacrifice pinch runners and all the roles that we possibly have. So fall is to, develop everybody from top to bottom. And then winter is like, now we got to, the whole Saban thing, got to get everybody on the bus. And now we got to find seats for them on the bus. And that's what the winner is right now. And so we're going to go to USD. We're going to play 4 games. We're going to plug and play, throughout the lineup, and we're going to really establish roles in the next couple of weeks.
You talked about a complete team. I mean, it looks like you guys on paper have, you're one of you guys in Corona, as scary as it sounds, might be better this year than you were last year. And, take us through, I mean, you got a boatload of arms, you got a boatload on offense coming back. Obviously, the 13 guys committed to play college baseball right now. We'll get into later if we want the burden of expectation, but I mean, just take us through the offense quickly, and then, we'll jump into the pitching.
Top of the lineup, we have Ethan Porter, we have Trevor Goldenitz, Porter going to Oregon State, Trevor going to Long Beach State. There's Trent Grinlinger, the catcher, going to Mississippi State, CJ Weinstein, Cole Clark, and Jayton Greer, right? That's 6 right there. Were all in the lineup last year. They all were in that CIF championship game and regional and all of that. Yeah. I don't know what order. In like every game, I write a new lineup with guys in different spots there. And we're trying to find the right combination. I needed an analytics department to like give me all the data here, and I'm just trying to figure it out myself with my eyes. Those 6 guys can, I think can start as freshmen in any college in the country. I really believe that. So, facing really top end arms, that's a pretty long lineup. But then you add Jared Grinlinger, you had Tanner Brown, you had Dane Cunningham, you had a couple guys that you may not know of, Matt Heidel and Jason Dunham, but those guys are, I think Matt's going to end up signing with a D2 school soon. I think Jason Dunham's going to be a D1 shortstop one day. And we have these guys who we could possibly put into the lineup along with Tanner Brown, who's already committed to TCU. And like, man, there's some options. There are some options, and it's just a question of like finding the right combo and finding the right matchup. And what I think we do well here is that every game is a new game as far as the lineup goes. Like we're not going to stay stagnant. And we always evaluate and reevaluate every game, like every BP session. We chart our BP sessions and like who's hot, who isn't, and let's get the hot bat into the lineup in the right spots and see how it works. But yeah, I mean, on paper, looks pretty dang good, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, the same thing goes for the rotation, right? I mean, your arms. I mean, you've got an abundance of arms, guys that have been in the program for a while, including the 2 sophomores you mentioned there offensively, and Grinlinger and Brown. But guys like Freddie Anjuli, who had pretty strong balls from everything I'm seeing and everything I've heard. Guys like that seem to always pop up in your program, but take us through the rotation and, including a guy like that.
Okay. Well, obviously Tyler Bellerose has had significant innings and played in huge games since the sophomore year. He didn't beat Jay Sarah in North Carolina, but really, really did well against them. He pitched in the semis this past year in both games, against Corona and against La Mirada. He's a big game pitcher, and like obviously he's our number 1 guy. But Otto Espinoza has also been in huge games. He's going to Cal. It really ticked up velo wise and stuff wise. Just body has filled out, and he's doing exactly what we hoped he could do. And he has shown so much maturity and growth over this past summer that it's like, oh man, he could be 1B and 1A. But not to take away from Jared and Tanner, who also got significant innings last year. And they could be right up there at 1C and 1D, right? But then you have Jake Frone, who's going to San Diego State. You have Ashton Arroyo, who was on the JV team last year that nobody even knows about, the 6'6" right-hander who, is up to 88 and has some ride and misses barrels. And then you have Freddie, who basically has come out of nowhere, right? But we've known about him, but he's come out of nowhere on the big stage and done really well and is going to help us. But then there's these guys, these sneaky guys like Jared Marchbank and Duncan McLeod and Ryder Seelan and, these younger guys who are going to get 𝓼𝓸𝓭𝓬𝓪𝓼𝓽 is another. He's a football player, but like really showing growth on the mound where like we have options. And our new schedule, I don't know, like no one really knows about where we're playing 3 games a week, right? We're kind of following what the Trinity did. And so you have to have depth. And you have to have, the guys are going to get thrown into the fire in big league games. And I'm just like, this is the year. This is the year to have it because we have a lot of pitching depth.
So you always have a guy out of the pen that's like 80 to 82 with just nasty stuff. Who's that guy this year?
Well, the Duncan McLeod kid. Yeah. Sophomore, he's a lefty sophomore, and he'll kill you with kindness. He will kill you with kindness on the mound. But it's change up, but he knows how to pitch. And when he was in 8th grade and he tried out for us, he was front hipping right-handers with his 2-seam and backdoor slider and change up the fades and like, okay, this kid's going to be able to pitch for us. And so those are the kind of kids who are like, all right, game 4 in North Carolina, we make the championship game. Those are our guys, right? Yeah. Park, just like let them hit it, and we'll go run it down. But then Jared Marchbank is a right-hander that really came on the scene, and he's a little scrawny guy, but he can move it and manipulate it, and he's reminiscent of 𝓟𝓸𝓭𝓬𝓪𝓼𝓽 from a couple years ago. Just the way the pitchability is incredible. You know what I didn't mention though? We got 2 guys that are position players that are going to pitch this year that we haven't seen, and Porter is one of them. Ethan Porter at the end of a game could be devastating. And when he was a freshman, it was like he's going to pitch for us. Yeah. He didn't throw that much, elbow problems. Then he blew out, and so he didn't pitch his whole sophomore year. Last year, it was just kind of like he wasn't ready to come back, and we didn't want to put that pressure on him. And now he's ready to go. And so really excited to see him on the back end of a game because we feel like it really shortens the game with him. But then with Dane Cunningham, maybe a 6th inning guy, Dane 6th and Ethan 7th, that really takes the pressure off our starters having to go much deeper than the 5th inning. So looking forward.
Well, that's interesting. I didn't know you guys were working Cunningham in there too, but we had Porter fall of his freshman year actually at an event where he was, I think 87, 88 maybe. I mean, it was impressive, and he hit a bomb out at USD that day. Yeah. So I mean, it gave you an indication of the type of player he was going to become. It's good to hear that he's back on the mound. But
back on the mound, 2,700 spin rate on the slider, so it's like it's real, man. It's gonna play for sure.
You talked about a data team, and now you touched on that again. And you guys have TrackMan at your place, right? And,
yes.
And I mean, you guys are pretty deep into that. You had Rapsodo before that, and you guys use Blast. Obviously, you're in their commercials, for God's sake. You guys. So I mean, that's pretty big for you guys. Then there's the whole data piece and the data analysis, and I mean, how big of a role, because you're seeing it a lot now in college football, right? During these playoffs, they're kind of enhancing that.
Right.
And I'm wondering, like, how important is that for your guys' game time decisions? Are you referencing that stuff in game? Are you looking at things like that in game?
We are. Okay. So it's dual purpose. Like we can look at stuff in game and see what we're paying attention to what their pitcher's doing. We have our little iPad in the dugout looking at it. We're checking our pitcher's velo, if it's ticking down or not, if he's getting tired. But it's after the game. We have you got to use your resources now. So last year I went to our robotics teacher and I said, hey, do you have anyone who can write code? He's like, I got the perfect kid for you. And his name was 𝓼𝓭𝓬𝓪𝓼𝓽, right? He was a senior on the basketball team last year, but he was super into analytics. And so I showed him what the charts that North Carolina sends us back with from their TrackMan. I said, can you do this? And he writes the code. And it's perfect. So now TrackMan sends our data at the end of the game. I send it to Rohan, who's going to school in Chicago, University of Chicago right now. He sends me back all of the heat maps for hitters, all these charts for my pitchers, and then I can share them with everybody. And it's like, this is gold. This is absolute gold.
Oh, 100%. You're running that thing like a college baseball program at this
point. That's the thing. It's like, and I'm sorry, University of Chicago baseball coach, but I emailed you and I said, you have a guy at your school that you need to pay attention to. And he ghosted me, so like he's missing out on it. But other college coaches, Rohan he has a business and he's great. And if you just email me, I'll show you exactly what he's doing. And it is pro level stuff. And so, but to answer your question, yeah, we show the hitters, like the heat maps are great because our hitters get to see where they hit a ball hard and where they don't hit a ball very hard, like where are their hot zones. And he also has broken it down into, whiffs, like their chase rate off of the plate. And so, and what they're swinging at and what they aren't swinging at. And man, I'm an old guy and I feel like I'm young again with all this stuff. Like I'm learning all of this, and I feel like it's a combo of my old school eyes and then with this TrackMan data, and that's how we're making our decisions.
No, that's awesome. I mean, for your players alone, what a great development tool.
Yeah, for sure. And we had Jeff Mauser is a cross tracker for the Diamondbacks. He's a good friend of ours, and he comes in once a year and he talks to our players, and he just basically breaks down like, what does this mean? What does horizontal, break, vertical break and all of that? What does that mean? Like, what does it look like on that little crosshair thing where your dots are, close to the x-axis and y-axis? So they are speaking the language too, which is good. So when they get into college and their college coach is showing them these charts, they're going to know exactly what they're talking about.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. That's awesome. I didn't know you guys were that in depth. And Rohan, shout out to you, my man.
Yep.
Hey, you touched on the league and you guys making this transition to 3 games. I don't know if that's public or not, but it is now. Talk to us about the league, because the old Sunset League, from a few years ago isn't what it is today. With the 2 divisions, who are the teams in it? Is there relegation like some of these other leagues? What's going on with your league?
I would not have known what relegation meant until I watched Ted Lasso. So now I know. I got a chance. So now I know exactly what you're saying. There is no relegation anymore because there's Laguna Beach is not in our league anymore. So it's not a 8-team league with a split. Now it's a 7-team league. So there's 6 opponents. And we decided to play each other 3 times. So there's 18 league games. I think the Mission League does the same thing. But we're going 3 times in a week, which is tough on, it doesn't matter if it's a strong or weak league. That's tough. Right. And our league this year is very, very tough. Obviously LaSalle, Fountain Valley, have been in the top end of our league before, but I know Edison is going to be much improved. I know Newport Harbor is going to be really tough this year. Corona del Mar has some really tough pitchers that we're going to have to get through. Marina beat us last year and has 2 D1 arms. So I love the Sunset League being tougher. I love the Sunset League being one of the toughest leagues around, because when I got the job 25 years ago, I had to ask, I'm like, wait a minute, that's one league? Like Edison, LaSalle, Esperanza, Fountain Valley, and Marina, like in the last, from the previous 5 years, they had 4 CIF champions in that league. And I'm like, this is what I'm getting into. This is I'm 25 years old and I have to coach against LaRupa and Mike Curran and Paul Renfro, Mark Claybo. I'm like, I don't know anything. Like I was a TV coach last year, this is intimidating. But I wanted to get back to that glory. I really want to see that. I want to see Nick at Edison do well. I want to see Fountain Valley win a CIF championship. Like I want to see that happen again. I just don't want it to be against us. Like obviously I want to kick their ass whenever we play them, but like I want to see our league get back to the level where it should be.
Yeah, no doubt. And so you obviously have those 18 games. You're going back to North Carolina this year. And what else are you guys doing this year?
So we have so with the 18 games, we can only be in 2 tournaments, and we had 1 single game, and we're playing Harvard Westlake to open up the year We're going to do it at Blair on March 5th. So that's going to be a battle. But the Boris and North Carolina are, I think the two best tournaments around. So we're going to get challenged. And I saw the competition that's going to be in both of those tournaments. Like, holy moly, man. Like it's just my pitching coach and I are like, this is the longest 4 days of our life. And we do it twice a year. Like we're masochists. It is so stressful in both of those tournaments. So, I've said it before, like going 2-2 is a win in those tournaments, and hopefully we can pull that off.
Yeah, and I saw you. They didn't do you any favors with that 9 a.m. start there. That's awesome.
I love staring at the sun at Modern Day High School when it's right in center field when you're trying to hit a guy throwing 92.
Yeah, exactly. That's fantastic. Hey, well, I wanted to kind of close up with you with kind of the recruiting. We've touched a lot about, obviously how many guys you have committed over the years, obviously guys drafted, guys, gone on to the big leagues, things of that nature. And just like, what systems do you guys have in place to handle, the scouting, the recruiting for your guys? At this point, obviously, I'm sure there's a system in place. You've been there long enough with plenty of talent. What do you guys do for your players to kind of ease the burden on them with regards to, recruiting and the scouting?
Well, there's a couple things. Like one, we do a lot of team camps. Like we travel and we go to, multiple places, San Diego, USD, San Diego State, but also to Palomar, right? We would to kind of show the JC guys, like right now we've been playing consistently at Palomar in the winter and the summertime. And right now we have 5 guys going to Palomar JC playing baseball from last year's team. We play at Cypress JC. We play at Golden West JC just to show them off kind of thing. But then we do team camps at CBU, at Long Beach State. When we travel to Arizona in the fall, we play at Arizona State. So we're just trying to expose our players as much as we can to college coaches and just to play in front of them. But really what we want the college coaches to see is how we as a program play. And I always tell our guys, like even our committed guys, like you have a responsibility when we go out and we play in front of people to show you're not showing off to get yourself a scholarship. You're playing the game the right way, and you're playing this team concept game so that you can get your buddy a scholarship, right? You can get the guy who was the reserve player for a long time. You give him an opportunity to possibly get recruited by that school. So, we do the team camps, but there's a big emphasis on playing the right way when we get there and acting right and doing the right things. Along with that, the TrackMan, the Rapsodo stuff is just, it's invaluable because I can just like, hey, I know you've never seen this guy, but here's his numbers, right? Here's his numbers. The numbers don't lie. Like if he can spin it, he can spin it. It says it right here, what do you
Here's
think?
The video.
Yeah,
right?
Here's the video. And it's like, it makes it really easy for college coaches these days because I'm giving you numbers and I'm giving you a visual of what it should be. I don't think your eyes in the stands are really going to tell you what this video and these numbers are going to tell you. So here you go. And the fact that, without like sounding conceited or bragging, but like they're coming from a good program. They're coming from an established program that obviously has put out, players in the past. And so I can call a coach and be like, hey man, I'm putting my name on this kid. Like, I think he can do it. And being here for 25 years and having the players I've had and lucky enough to have a lot of really good players that have moved on and then have been good players in college. Yeah. The coaches kind of will listen to me a little bit more than probably they would have when I was 26 years old and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So, it does help to have a consistency of the program doing well. And then they kind of trust my word.
Well, you got a guy over at CBU that should open up get all their attention, right? I mean, when I tell you about a guy, you might want to listen because I mean, that guy's story is fantastic. But I mean, that's got to make you as a coach, right? Obviously, you've had all these guys, but I would imagine, like from my perspective, stories like that are what it's all about.
Yeah, and Gary, so Gary and I went to high school together. I don't know if you know that. Gary Adcock and I, he was a senior and I was a freshman. He played with my older brother, so I've known him for a long time. So whenever I would say, Gary, I have this guy, I have a guy, and he would never listen to me. I swear, I bet you, he still thought he was talking to the 14-year-old freshman, that couldn't hit the ball out of the infield. So. And I would tell him, and then I told him about Dooms, and I said, "Look, man, he's super athletic. He's raw. He's really good." And he ended up, Dooms luckily had a really good weekend in front of Gary. Gary saw it, and then he trusted it, right? Yeah. So we went to CBU. This is a story. We went to CBU and we played on a Wednesday, and he's talking to me. He's like, he wants you keep sending your best players other places. I said, I have sent you the best player in the history of Cal Baptist. And he's like, yeah, but he was your 7-hole hitter. He was your 7-hole hitter in high school. You didn't even say he wasn't your best player there. So he's still taking credit for Dooms, which he should. Gary did a great job with him. But, like that, and that is a great story because Dooms was, he earned every bit of what he's doing at CBU. Such a hard worker, but such a good kid. And Gary did a great job of developing him.
That's funny. The big brother, little brother kind of relationship there, right? That's fantastic. Yeah. Well, hey, Benji, we got through this with no tears. So I think we can both appreciate that. So you're still, you still got that one check mark in that column. But, man, I can't thank you enough for doing this, man. I really do appreciate you making some time to come on here and talk about your program and baseball in general.
No problem. And thanks for all you do and supporting our kids and showing them off. And that's, I think you deserve a lot of credit for getting our kids recruited. A video from you posted with something that you say is weighted in gold, man. So like all you guys do at PBR is a huge thing for our kids. So I appreciate it.
Thanks, man. That means a lot. Appreciate it, Benji. We'll see you soon.